I appreciate there hasn't been any video from myself for a while, but I have been engaged in lots of interesting applied work recently, and I think it's about time I started sharing them on our course YouTube channel. So today, just a very brief 5 minutes little reflection for you on group work. So at the moment I'm engaged in applied work with individual athletes on a one-on-one basis, some long-term, some short-term, but in the past and currently I have also worked in group settings as well. So that might be quite large groups of 20 athletes or smaller groups, 5 to 6 athletes, working over time on a series of issues or like mental skills training or something they specifically come to me to get support for. So there's a couple of things of a recent experience I'd just like to talk about. The first one is about parameters when setting group work. In this particular context, I won't go into huge amounts of detail about where this happened or what I did exactly for ethical reasons, as I'm sure you can appreciate. But in a general sense, this applies. You don't need to know those details. This applies to group work in a more general sense. I started working in a sporting environment which is not professional but does operate at a high level in terms of success in the particular sport. And as a member of this sort of organisation, I was prepared to offer almost a bespoke I'll do a series of sessions, whoever wants to come along, come along. And essentially what happened, we had a core group of people, of athletes coming along to those sessions, and every now and again the odd different person kind of coming in and dipping in and out. Now I think in principle when I set it up, I thought that was an okay idea, but what happened, and this is a good thing, a very powerful thing that happened, but also highlighted some of the limitations of that quite casual approach to setting up that consultancy essentially, or this period of work. So from a positive perspective, what happened, the group gelled very quickly. This is a group that is a team sport, so we're already very familiar with each other, already very supportive of each other. But in this group setting, they were able to express and share things they hadn't done whilst playing, whilst training. And even after one session, that was extremely liberating for a number of the people in the team, in the group, and that enabled them to move forward and integrate within their lives, both on playing and training and away from that context in their personal lives, interventions or simple techniques, things like relaxation, self-talk, that had a real impact, to the point where people who weren't competing because of things like nerves and anxiety started competing again, and that happened very quickly. That happened in under a month's time. So it became a very powerful tool almost of performance enhancement from a sports psychology perspective, and I hadn't experienced that before. I'd done group sessions with varying degrees of success, but I never had one that had worked quite so well. So I was very impressed with that. But in terms of going to some of the limitations of my initial approach of setting that up, it was clear that actually the sessions were quite different when different people were dipping in and out of them, and that almost interfered with the group dynamic that had developed, and almost that therapeutic space that I'd facilitated in this group of athletes. And I think in hindsight, and certainly in practice carrying on, if I'm going to set up sessions or do similar work, then I think I'd have to be a bit clearer about what my expectations are in terms of delivery of those sessions, what the expectation is in terms of attendance at those sessions, and also spelling out that actually the fact a group of athletes consistently share things throughout the weeks or months or however long it runs is actually part of the therapeutic process. And if you're not part of that, if you're only dipping in and out, actually all you're really doing is information gathering, and you're not getting the benefits or the potential benefits of that kind of group dynamic approach. So I thought I would share that with you. That's something that's very current in my own practice, and something this package if you like, that I delivered was so successful, I'm sort of toying with the idea and thinking about delivering it into other contexts. So in a future video, hopefully I'll be able to give you a bit more detail about what those sessions were, and also future group sessions and how they might be similar or differ. So just a few things to think about. One-on-one work seems to be quite a different beast to me compared to the group work, or can be, and brings its own limitations and challenges and also advantages. So it's just something to consider of all you sports psychs out there, or people considering or wanting to become sports psychologists. The sort of the mindset you have to go into these consultancies, and also the ability to use the setting itself as a therapeutic tool. Thanks very much for listening.